Today we're going to be going over the best breeding base build setup that you can do to make your life incredibly easy in Palworld. There's a lot of problems with the AI pathfinding and pals getting stuck in the game, and with this video today, oh my god, I finally got my serious artisan chickpea. Oh ho 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 ho, it's on. Oh, I got 2 of them. Oh, sometimes recording brings all the luck, other times it brings all the bad luck. But today, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to be going over the perfect breeding base setup, and quite frankly, just the best base setup, in my opinion, to get everything that you need done in Palworld. Now, I know base building doesn't seem too insane, but there really is quite a few things you can do to improve the efficiency, make sure you get every single thing that you can possibly need, and fit it all in one base, without having it break entirely and have to deal with sanity problems, depressions, fractures, and make sure that all the pathing works perfect. Now, since this is a breeding-focused base, we are going to be using 3 breeding pens, and we will be able to keep all of them full at all times, while still being able to get everything else we need at the same time. Now, if you want to build at the exact location that I am, if you start in the Plateau of Beginnings, you're going to need to go all the way to the southwest corner of the map here. There is a starting zone up in this part if that is available for your particular server. We are building on this flat location right here. Now, any flat location will do. There are tons of them throughout Palworld. You can see many of these base locations as these kind of big brown spots available around the map. So the developers definitely kept in mind these flat locations for you to be able to build in, and you can pick any single one of them to do something very similar. A lot of people have mentioned many issues with the breeding pens and pals that will stop breeding or not even registered as a place to work, and this is a pretty big problem in Palworld, but there's a few ways to be able to resolve this. First, you're going to want to make sure that there are no other work locations very close to this. You're going to want to make sure that resting spots are a bit away from it as well, like we have our hot spring right here. You've got another one on the other side, but it hasn't caused any problems. But the main thing to look out for is how close your breeding pen is to the edge of your base. If it's even touching this or even a tiny bit over it, it's going to break the breeding pen more often than not. And quite frankly, you really should probably have it a little bit farther away from the edge of the base than I do have this one here, if you plan on breeding large pals in it. Like if you were going to take a Jormuntide, any time that its little tail or part of its body goes outside of the base, it tends to glitch and leave the breeding pen or not even count it as a potential place to work. Another thing that I highly recommend with any kind of working location is make sure to put beds and things that they need close to them so they don't have to move very far to get to them. We have 2 beds outside of each of our breeding pens. We also have places for them to rest in the hot spring if they need to. You'll notice that I have beds close to the ranches as well, so none of our pals have to move very far to get any of their specific jobs done. And I also like to make sure I have the feeding bin pretty much at the center of my base, without anything around it that they're going to get stuck on. I do have the monitoring stand right here, but I tend to build these and destroy them as I need them. And there is a very important tip about this feed bin. The most basic food source you should be using for your base is going to be baked berries, and the reason for this is they give slightly more nutrition, but they also recover 1 sanity every time something eats it. So you're definitely going to make sure to want to cook your berries, and then fill up every other slot in your feed bin with something that is non-expirable. You can use cotton candy for this. You can get these from Woolly Pops. The Woolly Pops will actually farm them up in your ranch, and you can just leave them there. They won't eat them. Your pals will always prioritize whatever food you put in the leftmost slot. So we have baked berries there, which means they will always eat baked berries. Now, the next best food you're going to want to keep in your food bin is going to be salad. This will slightly improve your work speed for a period of time. You can see if we use it on our lift monk, the base work speed is 70. If we feed this to it, it's going to increase the work speed by 30%. After that is going to be a grilled lamb ball. This is going to slightly increase work speed, but it's also going to make sanity decrease slightly slower for a period of time. If we feed this to lift monk, it is still a 30% increase to the work speed. After that is going to be the Mozzarina hamburger, which you won't be able to cook until you make the electric kitchen, which is unlocked at level 41. If we feed this to our lift monk, this is going to give us a 50% work speed increase. And then the final one that you're going to, and then the final tier of food to be able to put into your feed bin is going to be the fried chickpea. This is going to increase your work speed, and it's going to give you the best sanity decrease that you can get. The downside of this is it's a 30% work speed. The downside of this is it's only a 30% work speed increase, but if you're worried about their mental stability, this is going to be the best food for that. And if you are using this as your feed, you'll be able to use the monitoring stand and put them to super hard working, which will give them an extra boost to their work speed, although it might not really be worth it, but that's completely up to you. Personally, I think the most sustainable upgrade that you can actually get is the salad. This gives you a decent sanity recovery and a 30% work speed increase. And it's super easy to make, only needing lettuce and tomato. Now let's go over the base setup and placement and how to improve efficiency as a whole. Now I have mentioned already how I like to keep things as close as possible, and that involves around the placement of certain types of jobs. You definitely want gaps in between things so your pals can move around freely. You'll notice that this Anubis just ran through here to be able to get to this rock. The Yormantide is kind of hanging around the breeding pen. I think it just likes to hang out there because it knows it's going to need to water all this stuff pretty soon. But let's start off here with the farm. You'll notice that everything that requires watering or planting is really close by. So we do have a tomato plant, we have 2 lettuce plantations, we have 2 wheat plantations, so I want all that wheat for food and for cakes. And we also have a bunch of red berry plantations. We have 3 of those total. Although now that I've transitioned to using salad as our food, we could probably cut down on the red berries. And then I also have our crusher as well as our mill behind this location. That means our Yormantides are going to be hanging out in this area all the time. They don't need to move far to be able to water everything. Anytime I want to get anything done here, they're going to be able to instantly do it. And there's also beds here for all of the things that are working in this area. You'll notice what I have is a Lylene, I have a Verdash, and I have 2 Yormantides taking care of all the watering. Because late game, you're going to end up using this crusher a lot. Because to be able to make the end game pal ingots, you need to be able to crush down stone into palladium fragments unless you want to farm it up and lose your mind. So I have 2 Yormantides. I could probably get away with 1, but I do like making sure all of my crops are watered and everything is working as efficiently as possible. Basically, my pals are working 24/7 if they're not sleeping. Sometimes they need to take a bath, but with proper food, they can work all the time and never get upset. And since they don't have to move really out of this area, they're never getting stuck and everything runs unbelievably well. Now, as far as the breeding pens go, you do want to make sure that you don't put them too close to the edge of the blue circle here. You'll notice that mine is pretty close, but you want to make sure it's not touching. If it's touching or over the edge, your pals are probably going to break. Although there was just a patch today that might actually allow you to push that over the edge a little bit. We'll probably test that in this video to see if it's going to work or not. Let's grab our eggs here. But if you do encounter any type of issues with your breeding pen, make sure that you just kind of move it a little bit farther back from the edge of your base limitation, and it should help quite a bit. Now, the best thing about this setup is you have everything perfectly set up to be able to cool your fridge, get your electricity if you need, 2 Yormantides if you need them. Lylene and Verdash will take care of all of your planting. Then we have 6 more slots for everything that we want to breed, and we can do this all at one time. And then we have 3 more slots for something else. Obviously, if you're doing a lot of crafting, you'll probably want to fill those up with Anubis. Or like what I'm about to do is drop a Yormantide in there so I can make 73 cakes. Now, cakes for a breeding base are extremely important, and that's why I actually have 2 ranches available to me. So I have 1 ranch over here, and then I have another ranch just next to this other breeding pen over there. Now, for making your cakes, you're definitely going to want to get some chickpeas. I have a level 4 chickpea that actually hatches 3 to 4 eggs every minute, which is pretty great. You're going to want some Moozarinas, which obviously if you level up their star rating in the PAL condenser, they're going to drop more milk for you in the ranch as well. And then you'll want some Begards as well. Now, the big tip about Begards is if you go into their active skills, you're going to want to make sure that they do not have Be Quiet on. This is the one that explodes itself, and you can actually unequip it. You can unequip all of their skills too if you really want to be safe, but you just want to make sure they do not have the self-destruct skill equipped. That way they don't accidentally blow up your base. Now, if you are fully good on food and you don't need any more, you can unequip Lylene and Verdash, as well as your 2 Yormantides, and you can stock up on bees or whatever ingredient you're missing for your cakes. So the perfect setup would be a 4-star Chickpea, a 4-star Moozarina, and a 4-star Begard. Now, I don't have the 4-star Moozarina or the Begard yet, because I'm actually working on transferring these Chickpea stats with Artisan and Sirius onto them. As you can see here, the work speed of 154 is pretty phenomenal. So getting that onto my Moozarina and Begard would mean I would never have to have more than this, and this would kind of be my perfect setup. I've got the Verdash, I've got the Lylene, the Jolthog Chris takes care of my 1 fridge, the regular Jolthog takes care of all the electricity. I like these both because they're so small. Yormantide waters everything. Yormantide Ignis I only bring in when I need to actually have something cooked. Otherwise, I'll probably have 2 Yormantides because I'm always crushing stuff up. My 3 cake ingredient collectors. Then the rest of the slots are available for my 3 breeding pairs, which I have all going right now with absolutely no issues with the pathfinding, them getting stuck, them removing themselves. We've got the beds close to them if they need them. We've got the baths, everything. Everything is really set up to be as optimal as possible. Your pals don't have to move around the base. It works really, really well. There's also room for a logging yard, as well as the stone quarry, although I've removed the stone quarry because the Anubis like to prioritize using that rather than crafting anything. Well, the next big base tip that I can give is to recognize that whenever you teleport to your PAL box, you always do end up at the back of it when you teleport to it. So I like having 2 or 3 boxes available to me to be able to grappling hook to be able to quickly transfer items between bases. It just really helps improve life quite a bit. I like having all the things that drop in the wild in one box. I like having the next box filled with resources so I can bring them from my metal bases or anything like that. And it just makes transferring stuff in between bases so much easier. Other than proper placement and spacing for all of your things, the only real big thing is making sure that you just don't use a lot of big pals. They tend to get stuck more often than anything small. That's why I like using the Joel Hogs. Lylene is just the best planter available. Verdash is also one of the best gatherers available too. The only large pals that I do ever recommend using are Jormuntide and Jormuntide Ignis. And then obviously whatever pals you're going to be putting in your breeding pen, they're going to be mandatory. And I really do like having the 2 ranches. I know I don't have a lot of things out in the ranches right now, but that's because I have already gathered a ton of resources. I mean, I'm just in the process of making 72 cake. I still have 299 milk left and 9 eggs. And you can swap out any of these pals to massively overload your ranches, and within a few minutes you can have a ton of resources. But I do really hope you all enjoyed the video. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.